I call this meeting to order. This is the Land Use Planning and Zoning Committee of the City Council. All councilors are present this evening. I'm going to start with the land acknowledgement. The city of Albuquerque was established on the unceded traditional homelands of the Tewa Pueblo people, the Pueblos of Sandia and Isleta. As caretakers of the Middle Rio Grande Valley, the Tewa Pueblo people nurtured and cared for its human and non-human inhabitants, as well as the desert, mountain, and water ecosystems since time immemorial. Historically, the Pueblo peoples have contributed to and guided the development of Albuquerque and New Mexico, and they continue to cultivate the cultural, spiritual, and socioeconomic life of Albuquerque and our land of enchantment. We also recognize that Albuquerque has long been a gathering place of diverse indigenous peoples, tribal nations, and pueblos of New Mexico, and indigenous nations from around the world, and that this sacred place continues to be their traditional homelands. All right, tonight's meeting will be a hybrid meeting where all participants will be in person or on video or audio conference. Members of the public have the opportunity to address the committee if they signed up for public comment per the rules established on the agenda and on our website since Friday. We'll call for speakers when we get to the individual agenda items that you signed up for, and there are rules for public speaking. Comments are to be addressed to the committee members only. Each participant has 2 minutes and only 2 minutes to present. Any disruptive conduct will result in removal from the meeting. We're going to start with agenda item A, Councilor Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. EC 479, the mayor's appointment of Mrs. Jessie L. Hunt to the Environmental Planning Commission. I move for withdrawal.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand and say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, that item has been withdrawn. We're going to move on to item B. This is 098, amending the traffic code and the sidewalk ordinance to improve protections for bicyclists, pedestrians, and other vulnerable users, and amending the automated speed enforcement ordinance to direct revenue to Vision Zero traffic safety initiatives. I'll move a do pass. And seconded by Councilor Rogers. This is a pretty big bill that has been in a long time coming. We've been working with the mayor's office and advocates for a while now to think of ways to really straighten out our traffic code. It hasn't been updated for 51 years, and we had some pretty large gaps in safety measures, and so that's what this bill is. I do, before we get to public comment, want to go ahead and do the amendments. And so I will start with mine first. We'll do committee amendment number 1, if we can get that up onto the screen. This is actually something that was requested by the advocates, and it is on page 5. Insert the following after line 5. It's a new section on jurisdiction, but the added section is A, operators of bicycles have the same rights and responsibilities as operators of automobiles in the use of the streets, highways, and roadways within the city, except for as otherwise specifically provided herein. And B, provisions listed in this Chapter 8 as applicable to bicycles are equally applicable to e-bikes and powered micro-mobility devices. I will move that amendment. Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Grout. And so this is just to make sure that we are extending the entire traffic code to bicycles, e-bikes, and powered micro-mobility devices. So any questions, councilors? All those in favor, raise your hand and say yes. Yes? Yes. Any opposed? All right. Amendment 1 has passed. Let's move to Amendment 2, going up on the screen now. Again, requested by advocates, worked with the administration and Director Turner to make sure that this works out. On page 10, line 31, insert a period after crosswalk and delete when the vulnerable road user is upon the half of the roadway upon which the vehicle is traveling, and when the vulnerable road user is approaching so closely from the opposite half of the roadway as to be in danger. And we're going to remove that and instead say when the vulnerable road user is upon the half of the roadway upon which the vehicle is traveling, or when the vulnerable road user is approaching so closely from the opposite half of the roadway as to be in danger. I will move that floor amendment, committee amendment number 2. seconded by Counselor Rogers. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your hand and say yes. Any opposed? All right, Amendment 2 passes. We've got Committee Amendment number 3. It's going up on the screen now. On page 15, line 18, delete the second occurrence of the word "the." That was just a typo. And on page 15, line 19, delete devices, signs, or lines or marking and replace with signals. I will move that, and seconded by Counselor Grout. This was just to clarify when someone has to walk to the next intersection. We had some language in there about you have to kind of be omniscient and know what's at the next intersection, and you can't really see that, but you can, of course, see when there's a signal. So just making that provision change. Any questions? All those in favor? Oh,
One
yeah.
question. Thank you, Madam Chair. What about if we're deleting the sign? So if there is a sign that directs them to not do something, would that mean they don't have to follow the sign?
Thank
Just
you,
looking for the
Counselor.
signal?
No, so the original language was that you have to go to the next intersection, or to one of the next intersections if there is a sign or crossings painted on the sidewalk, or, sorry, on the road itself. And we're taking all that out and saying that you only have to walk to the next intersection if there's a visible light, so you can see those from a while away.
Got it.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, sure. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor, raise your hand and say yes. Any opposed? All right, that is amendment number 3 passes. We've got amendment number 4, and this is a long one. Let's get this one up on the screen. So this is all technical cleanup. Our staff found some areas where we just needed to do some cleanup. So I'm going to not go through this line by line, but I will read the explanation for folks that are following along on what this does. So the vulnerable road user definition is clarified and removes a person riding or leading an animal to clarify that horses or other draft animals should comply with Part 4 of the Traffic Code. Other amendments deal with the language of rapid and safely as they pertain to a vulnerable road user crossing a safe zone or crosswalk. The language is changed to follow state statute as well as be in line with other regional municipalities. And then the end section clarifies that other devices that are required to comply with laws governing drivers of vehicles should not overpass other stopped vehicles or other applicable devices when stopped at a traffic signal, hawk, or other type of signal for the protection of the vulnerable road users. I'll move that committee amendment number 4. Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Grout. Councilor Grout?
Madam Chair, the floor amendment says number 4.
It says floor amendment number 4 to O25-93. Should it say 98?
Oh, is there a typo on the title? Yes, sorry about that.
Okay.
This is O2598. Thank you for catching that. Councilor Rogers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So removing persons riding or leading an animal for horses, so they're not, wouldn't be considered a vulnerable road user any longer?
Thank you, Councilor Rogers. So this is to clarify that horses, if they're in traffic, are actually considered vehicles, and that we don't necessarily want horses on sidewalks. We've heard a lot of folks saying that in the last couple of weeks at City Council. I don't know that I want to be on a sidewalk and come across a horse as well. And so horses are considered vehicles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So how would this affect APD? Because their horses are always on sidewalks.
Thank you, Councilor Rogers. I will say that we have learned in many bills recently that these are for the public use, and city employees, APD, would probably not have to follow this, but I would also think that it would be nice if APD did not put horses on sidewalks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would think that APDs should be applicable to our laws, even when they're, on as being a police officer. So maybe, and what about? I guess oddly enough, there's a lot of horses that aren't with police in my district. that aren't on the road. So I just worry about the horses and what does that mean for the horses and the cars together.
Councilor Rogers, you're happy, if you want to ask someone else, my take is that horses do not belong on sidewalks with people, perhaps people in wheelchairs, we've got people on scooters, we've got people on mobility assisted devices, and I don't think that there is a room on city sidewalks for both.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to hear from APD. I see we have someone from APD over there. I don't know if you're the appropriate person to answer that question, but how would this, would you have to change your standard operating procedures for riding horses to say they have to be on the road and not the sidewalk?
So, Madam Chair, in regards to that, I would have to double check with my side on how that affects things. What I would talk about is currently let me reintroduce myself. My name is Sergeant James Burton. I'm the sergeant of the Fatal Crash Unit with the Albuquerque Police Department's Traffic Division. Having previously been on the horse-mounted unit, what I would tell you is that we routinely have to go on sidewalks. Part of the role of the horse-mounted unit is to direct and move crowds. And so that may require us, just that, to move on to where the crowds are at, to safely rescue people, to move people into a safe direction, depending on the situation that we're in. I would have to double check with my command staff, so I don't want to answer directly for them how a change to this ordinance may affect standard operating procedures. But just in practice, I could tell you, I know the question came up of, well, sometimes we do that. That is correct. Sometimes we do. Part of that is to get out of the way of flow of traffic so that we're not, you've seen it, we have humongous horses, right? So we're trying the best we can do to work with the public to not create a disturbance on the public, both for traffic flow and for pedestrian flow.
Thank
Does
you.
that answer?
It helps a little, but yeah, thank you so much.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of committee amendment number 4, raise your hand, say yes. Yes. Anybody opposed? All right, amendment 4 passes. Amendment 5 is going on the screen now. This was also, well, I'll move it first. On page 3, insert the following line after line 13, and we're going to do the same thing on page 21 after line 18. Engineering and traffic investigation and/or study. A traffic engineering study, investigation, or analysis based on professional engineering judgment, field observation, safety analysis, or other evidence-based best practices. This approach will use data to include, but not limit to, HFIN crash data, roadway classification, surrounding land use, speed violations, warrant studies, and other variables to justify safety changes. Again, I'll move that floor amendment number 5. Seconded by Councilor Rogers. Again, this was requested because there was some concern that the language that we had was not open enough to include all the types of studies or decision-making processes that we use. And so advocates and Director Turner worked on, and Ms. Dolan from the Mayor's Office worked on this today. So any questions? All those in favor, raise your hand and say yes. Yes. Anybody opposed? All right. Floor, committee amendment number 5 passes, and then we'll go to Councilor Bassan.
Madam Chair, I would like to move amendment number 6 and then talk about it.
Can we get floor amendment number 6 up on the?
Yes.
On the, oh, they don't have floor amendment number 6. I think we either need to get it up on the screen or you need to go through it. So let's give them a minute to get it up on the
That's fine.
screen. I'll go ahead and second it for discussion purposes while they're finding
Thank
it.
you. While they're doing that, because I won't read it yet, I want to tell
Yeah.
you about my heartburn. So particularly at Wyoming, in between Spain and Osuna, there's a lot of traffic, as there is throughout the city. And I guess I would be remiss without saying, I care about pedestrians and I want us to be a safer city. So right in between, I learned today that it's called a Danish crossing. Thank you. So I've worked and talked with the director and admin, and I've talked with our staff on how we can make this better. I still don't know if what I came up with is the best solution, but if you have people that are starting to go at Spain or Osuna, whether it's on Wyoming or Eubank, and then we later found on Morris as well, it would complete out the Bear Canyon, Arroyo, and like the bike path and trail there. If you have people that get the green light, and there's currently signage there now, it doesn't blink, but there's signage, and it was verified that if this passes, cars would need to stop in between Osuna and Spain on Wyoming after they get the green light. And so now they're gonna go and they're gonna stop. And I'm hoping that the cars behind me, when I stop, because I know this new rule and I know this new ordinance, is going to stop. But I have a feeling I'm gonna get rear-ended. And I have a feeling that by rear-ending me, because people aren't paying attention behind me, it's going to end up causing me to hit the cyclist or whoever's crossing too, causing a tragedy that we don't want. So how do we make this better? My idea is hopefully putting up the intended hawk signals that are eventually going to go in anyway, but now I want to prioritize them, and that's what this amendment is. So on page 2, line 25, insert the following whereas clauses. Whereas the 2024 Bikeways and Trail Facilities Plan has the Bear Canyon Arroyo Trail crossings at Wyoming Boulevard, Morris Street, and Eubank Boulevard as a priority trail crossing improvements, and whereas by improving these 3 trail crossings, the Bear Canyon Arroyo Trail crossings identified in the 2024 Bikeways and Trail Facilities Plan will be completed. And whereas along the street segments that come into contact with these trail crossings, there have been crashes ending in 166 injuries and 2 fatalities from 2015 to 2023 per the city and Mr. Cog High Fatality Injury Network data. And then on page 22, line 27, add a new section 7 and renumber subsequent sections. Section 7 will read, the administration shall prioritize per the 2024 Albuquerque Bikeway and Trail Facilities Plan the implementation of hawk signals or more adequate trail crossing improvements at 1, the Bear Canyon Arroyo Trail Crossing on Wyoming, 2, Bear Canyon Arroyo Trail Crossing on Eubank, and 3, Bear Canyon Arroyo Trail Crossing on Morris prior to the implementation of other hawk signals in the city. And we made sure to put in there, Mr. Cox was wise in knowing that on this where it says or more adequate trail crossing improvements, if the hawk signal is too close to the lights, maybe that is going to be more problematic too. So if the engineers and people way smarter than me can figure out a better plan as to what should be happening. I mean, we've brainstormed new asphalt and bridges. I've heard tunnels. I mean, there's a lot of things that we've been trying to wrap our head around today. So, but if the department can figure out something better, that's great. But something I can say, I would be scared to stop in the middle of these streets during the high traffic hours because I'm scared I will get rear-ended, even though it's the right thing to do. And again, I'm going to say it again. If I get rear-ended, I could get pushed into this very same person we're trying to protect. Or someone might pass, which I know we just did an amendment to prevent that too. But let's be real. Not everyone knows exactly what our laws are every single second, and as soon as we update them, so I want to do whatever we can to make sure that there's the lights. I mean, if you all want to figure out sirens or something to make sure people stop, that's fine too. But I would urge your support to make sure that we prioritize. And one more thing, I believe that these are the 3 spots in Albuquerque. These 2 particular ones, there might be 1, maybe 2 more that we were able to find that have these kind of crossings. If I'm wrong, I welcome the admin to clarify, but this is not something that occurs regularly in Albuquerque, but I also didn't want to carve out just special intersection stuff either.
Any questions? Counselor Rogers?
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate you thought about this, and I think I won't tonight because I want to be thoughtful and think about that, but I think we need to include the Han Arroyo Trail where we had Kayla Van Landingham killed at that same type of a intersection with the trailhead there. That's one of the ones that's on my heart. So I think that I appreciate you thinking of this, and I think we should include the other ones that we already know should be our priorities because we've had deaths there. So I appreciate this. I don't want to add to it now. I'll do an amendment for Big Council to add that, the Han Arroyo Trailhead near Carlisle and Del Mar Avenue. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a few, and I'm wondering if Director Turner is available to answer. It's my understanding that we have a listing of all of the kind of mid-block crossings that are already prioritized based on, sadly, injuries and deaths at those. Can you talk about where these 3 intersections sit on that list that's already been prioritized?
Madam Chair, and to address Councillor Rogers too, just to be clear, the Han Arroyo intersection between Carlisle and around Del Mar is already, we're wrapping up design, and we already have a contractor in place to put in a hawk signal there, and we're working as hard as we can to have that in place by the end of the month. So that is already getting done. So, and we're thinking very hard about, what happened there, and that we need to get a safe crossing in there as soon as possible. So, Madam Chair, regarding the crossing guide, so our bikeways plan has 200 crossings around the city that need improvements, and we have prioritized them. And the ones that Councillor Bassan has referenced are already identified as priority crossings, and so we would already be getting to those as soon as possible. So yes, there are crossings around the city that need work, and we have prioritized them, and the ones that Councillor Bassan identifies are already top on the list. In particular, on Wyoming, between Osuna and Spain, is on our HVIN, our high fatality serious injury network. We had, as the comments note, over 160 injuries or crashes over the last couple of years, including two fatalities. So that is already top on our list. And so we support continuing to prioritize our prioritized crossings in our bikeways plan.
Thank you. And just to clarify, so these are the next 3. These are top, or 1, 2, and 3 on the priorities list.
Madam Chair, I can't speak to if they're exactly, I did not bring my stack this big to Councillor, but they are on near the top. I don't think they're 1, 2, and 3, but they're near the top.
So can we find out what is in the top 3 that is not going to be done if we pass this amendment? I have heartburn doing them out of order of the prioritization. I mean, I would like to do them all everywhere, but there's 200 of them. And so is there something that's at the number 1 position that would not be done first, that needs to be done more quickly than these 3? That's my question.
Madam Chair, I can certainly get the other ones on the top of the list, but let me say with confidence that my team multitasks. We have engineers who are very good at working on plans for crossing at the same time. So for example, right now we're working very hard on a hawk signal at Hollywood and Rio Grande, and that's in Councillor Baca's district, and that is we're doing that at the same time as the Carlisle crossing, and at the same time as we can do hawk signals. I know there's one at Eubank, and I think that's in Councillor Grout's district, actually. So we're capable of multitasking. I don't think it's picking one over the other. I think it's just recognizing that we need to get a lot of these crossings done and prioritizing the ones that are prioritized in the plan. Like we're on board with that.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I am all for prioritization. I will just say that I've been trying to get a crossing at Washington and Sunningdale for 4 years now, and it's not in. So, but I do see the value of this, and I will support this. Just wanted to make sure we weren't leaving somebody else out that was important. Are there any other questions, Councilor Rogers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And sorry, Director, my question's for you too. I was trying to catch you before you got left. While we're talking about this very important topic of crossings, I have to mention Alec Montoya, the nurse at UNM Hospital that was just struck and killed by at a crossing. Where is that on the I know that's not a hawk light because it was Stanford and Lomas. What is our plans for that?
Madam Chair, Councillor Rogers, I'll have to let APD speak to the crash investigation there. They're still doing their report, so I don't actually know what the cause. I read the same news articles that everyone else did about the tragedy and about the allegedly high speeding that happened, but we usually wait for APD to complete their investigation, and then every month we sit down with APD and talk through the crash reports and what needs to be done going forward. But I have talked to the COO of the hospital, and he did share his concerns about speeding along that corridor and making it safe. And so I've agreed to meet with them to kind of talk through what else we can do in addition to whatever the APD investigation finds. I think that we're all very concerned about speeding down Lomas generally, and things that we can do in place to protect hospital workers and everyone that visits the hospital.
Yeah, thank you for that. I would love to be included in that. I worked at UNM Hospital for a long time, supported nurses in the ER, and so this for me hit my heart. And I, as the Counselor Feeblecorn and I kind of share that area, and so we could help by making sure you have what you need to work on that, because I think this is, I don't want to see more of that, and especially anybody, whether it's someone that works at Esperanza Bike Shop or UNM Hospital. I would love to partner together to figure out what we can do quickly for that one, because I don't want to see that happen again.
Thank you.
And we've had lots of folks talk to us about that particular intersection. I see some in the audience who have talked to us a lot about that particular intersection. So I think I would love to partner with Counselor Feeblecorn and you to come up with a quick solution based on what APD finds. Thank you.
All right, any other, Counselor
Well,
Bassan?
just to close, and then wait, Director. Don't go yet, Director. Don't go yet. And it might be actually for Valerie too, I don't know what's better, but, so do we have, for the public to know as well, is there I'm gonna use like a green, yellow, orange, red kind of graph for at what point is traffic crashes, maybe APD even, traffic crashes and or fatalities, obviously that's red. But when we were discussing it earlier and we looked up the number of accidents, and nobody wants to see people get hurt. So I want to make sure to be clear, because I think that sometimes it sounds like some of us are more compassionate than others. I don't want to see people get hurt. But I definitely want to make sure that there's not the unintended consequence by passing something that we're not thinking about that might actually cause another problem that could be worse. So when we were talking about numbers earlier, I believe that it was surprising how many accidents have happened near this area just because it hasn't necessarily made the news recently, which it is tragic. I'm not trying to diminish any of that. But is there a scale for us to be able to say this is where the priorities are? Because the areas listed on here are indeed on the priority list, but also I look forward to working with you and figuring out what else needs to happen at this intersection, because I think both of us got enlightened today about it.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Counselor Bassan, when I saw the high number of crashes, I did double check with my team. Are you sure you didn't add a zero? But no, unfortunately, those are the numbers. And I think about 100 of them were just property damage, but I think almost 70 there were the 2 fatalities and then actual injury to humans. And so those were tough numbers to read. So we maintain several maps and lists, if you will, that I encourage all the counselors as well as everyone here to take a look at, but I think they probably know them better than I do. We have our HVIN map, which is our high fatality serious injury map, which shows around the city what intersections and what parts of town we're seeing the most numbers of fatalities and serious injuries. And then we also, as part of our bikeways plan, there is an attachment that is, I want to say 100 pages long, that looks at projects around the city and identifies the level of priority, approximate costs, as well as the impact that they can make. So I encourage anyone, you can look and see if there's projects in your neighborhood on the list or any particular intersections that you're interested in. So we do have those resources available online. And then we also are last week we made live a map of all of our current Vision Zero projects that are available. I'll make sure it has like easy to find all over our municipal development webpage, so folks can look at how we've been spending Vision Zero money and what we're planning on accomplishing in the future. So there's several different resources, and I don't know, Valerie, if I've missed any, if I got them. Okay.
Thank you, Director. Madam Chair, I'll get to my close in just a second, but Director, I will have another question for you, but it's not germane to the amendment.
Okay.
Okay, so really truly this came from, I don't want to create a problem by passing something if there's a way for us to finesse it to try to make it safer for everybody. And so I see the accidents happen here regularly. The data actually proved it, because part of me was wondering if I was just being dramatic about it. The data is there. So I definitely want to do something that doesn't make us backtrack by causing more injuries and more fatalities by trying to do a good thing. I urge your support.
Thank you, Counselor. All those in favor, raise your hand and say yes. Yes. Any opposed? All right, committee amendment number 6 passes, and we will now go to public comment. Mr. Moya.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first speaker is Jackie Davis, followed by Ben Garland.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Committee. It's great to be here tonight as we're looking at updating the traffic code into the 21st century. I urge your support on 3 particular grounds. Number 1 is this bill requires stopping, not merely yielding to a pedestrian in a crosswalk. And a cyclist and a skateboarder and a rollerblader, there's no distinction here. It makes it clear that when somebody is in a crosswalk, you have to stop. Other states use this stop language, not New Mexico. States like Texas, Georgia, New Jersey, and Illinois all use the stop language in their state statute. I should know I've spent the better part of the summer reading all of the state statutes and compiling them. It also makes it clear what you're supposed to do at a hawk signal. I think when many of us are driving, myself included, I took driver's ed less than 10 years ago. Hawk signals weren't covered. We had no idea. There were no laws on the books, just kind of thrown on us. So it'll make that expectation clear for drivers, for pedestrians, so that you know what to expect. Number 3, it also makes it clear where money from speed cameras is supposed to go. And that's a big step towards transparency and accountability for the city. I've seen a lot of cities that have problems with their speed camera program because there are accusations thrown around, many of them true, that money goes into other pools that it shouldn't be going into. So I urge your support on this and look forward to it passing. Thank you.
Ben Garland, followed by Melinda Montoya.
Good evening. My name is Ben Garland. I am the program manager for the UNM Center for Pedestrian and Bicyclist Safety, but I want to make it clear I'm here on my personal time today. I've been advocating for safer streets for over a decade, and I'm part of the working group that Councilor Feeblecorn mentioned at the start of the meeting. So I had a longer comment earlier, and I was happy to see that a lot of that got addressed in the amendments, so thank you for that. And I want to thank Mayor Keller, Director Simon, Director Turner, and Councilor Feeblecorn, and everybody else who has helped bring us here today to work on this. To make it clear, I do 100% support all of these changes. And I think it's important to remember that every death on our streets is 100% preventable. So these changes are a good start, but we're not at the finish line. And it's important to remember why we're here today. We're here for Alec Montoya, who was killed last week in front of UNMH. We're here for Kayla Van Landingham, who was killed back in July. And we're here for Chuck Malagotti, who was killed in January. That's just this year. And I will say, I'll stay until the end of the meeting if any of you want to connect on a personal level, because I have lots of opinions about this stuff, and I'm happy to share them. So please do come say hello. Thank you.
Melinda Montoya, followed by Patrick Martin.
Hi. Good evening, Chair, councilors, and all members of the committee. Since this is public facing, I just want to let everybody know thank you, and I have so much gratitude for all the work you guys have been doing. My name is Melinda. I am here because of Kayla Van Landingham. She was my daughter, and she was struck and killed this summer. while she was riding her bike on the Han Arroyo crossing, one that she crossed multiple times. And she was returning home from Esperanza, just finished a brand new bike build. That crossing for the public had flashing lights, warning signs, but no paint on the pavement and no real protection. 2 cars stopped for her, but a third driver overtook the stopped cars and hit her, and the driver faced no charges because our current ordinances and case law showed there was no violation. So this isn't just about my daughter. It's about every person that uses our roads and trails believing that a marked crossing with flashing lights actually means safe to cross. It's really about protecting all of our children, our seniors, and people with disability, and anybody that moves through our city without our car. And these ordinances haven't been updated since 1974, and this ordinance update will close these dangerous gaps in our outdated laws. It makes it clear that vulnerable road users deserve protection everywhere they cross, not just at a few painted intersections. And it will also support all the new safety infrastructure that has been constructed throughout our city, providing clear instructions. So thank you for your support, and I hope it gets also supported as it moves through council and the companion resolution for education and awareness. Lives depend on it. My daughter's life depended on it. And let's make sure no one else has to stand here asking for safety after they lose someone. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Patrick Martin, followed by Diana Zamora.
Madam Chair, thank you. My name is Patrick Martin. I'm the president of Bike KBQ. I wanted to first thank the Councilor Fiebelkorn and members from the mayor's office for all your work in getting this really put together so quickly in the past couple months for the update of the traffic code. This is a very important update to our traffic ordinances. I identify really the same 3 thrusts that were mentioned earlier, that it incorporates the new types of infrastructure that we've seen installed on Albuquerque streets, that it includes the protections for vulnerable road users and expands the people who are protected under the traffic code, and then also gives, really increases the credibility of our automated speed enforcement program by directing those funds there. I also, echoing what Ben said earlier, really appreciated the amendments that were adopted earlier. There were many pieces that were confusing in terms of pedestrian crossings and bicycles and vulnerable road users that were addressed by this, and so that is very important to me. But I do want to just remind the council that safe cycling infrastructure and safe roadway infrastructure really is the primary way that we prevent these accidents from occurring. But we're not there yet. I hope to continue working with you on getting there. In the meantime, when these unfortunate events happen, it's important that the traffic code is there to backstop the infrastructure. So I urge your support. Thank you.
Excuse me, Diana Zamora, followed by Trevor Selby.
Good evening, Chair Fiebelkorn and committee. My name is Diana Zamora. I'm Melinda Montoya's mother and Kayla Van Landingham's grandmother. I received a call from my daughter, Melinda, at 2:36 p.m., a call nobody should ever receive. The ordinary day turned into a nightmare, and it continues to be a nightmare. My granddaughter, Kayla, had been killed. We drove in shock to meet my daughter at UNM Hospital. I still don't believe it happened, and it's been 12 weeks. Kayla was killed by an inattentive driver on July 22nd while crossing on her bike at the Han Arroyo bike path at the Carlisle and Delamar intersection. 2 cars stopped while the third car overtook the stopped vehicles. The driver admitted she didn't notice the flashing lights or the stopped cars. She struck and killed Kayla, and Kayla was only a few houses away from her home. She never made it home. The current laws and ordinances have some crossings appearing to be protected, but legally they're not. Cyclists do not have the same protection as pedestrians, and that's a big red flag to me. The driver was not charged with a single offense despite clear negligence, which resulted in the death of my granddaughter, Kayla. And just think about that. I'm appalled that this ordinance 0-25-98 has not been updated since 1974. If the laws and ordinances have been reviewed and updated to reflect the changes that have occurred in the last 50 years, there may have been changes and at the very least some accountability. In this case of no charges, it sends a message to motorists that you can hit and kill someone even on clearly marked crossings with flashing lights, and that's not acceptable. In healthcare, there is a proactive a process for the review of policies and procedures to ensure patient safety. Is there a plan for a proactive process to review ordinances? I support proposed changes to this ordinance because clear definitions and language are important when communicating with all of our road users. The ordinance can be used as a foundation and a step towards the prevention of future needless deaths in the city of Albuquerque. The proposed changes would extend protection to all road users, which frankly sounds fair and just. Thank you.
Trevor Selby, followed by Renee Gallagher on Zoom.
Good evening, counselors. I want to just say that these stories are heartbreaking, and I sincerely am grateful that everyone else who has showed up today is speaking out in favor of these new ordinances that will improve the safety of our city. I'm someone who exclusively gets around Albuquerque on bike and with public transit. There are a lot of reasons people will cycle around town. It could be for sport and exercise. It could be as a commuting option. It could be due to disabilities or just a way to have fun. So it's important that we're protecting people no matter what mode of transportation they're using, and that is a viable option for all. If we want the city to be prosperous in the future going forward, we need to make sure that these options are available to everyone and everyone can be safe, and that there's no excuses for delaying. There's no reasons to hold back on these changes. I really want all of you here to fight for not just this, but additional changes that will improve the city and improve the bike infrastructure, the pedestrian infrastructure that makes the city great, because there are some wonderful trails and I would love to see more of them. So sincerely, I hope you all keep fighting. This is the kind of thing that keeps me motivated to show up, to come out and vote. I'm excited to vote for you a second time, Fablecorn. But seriously, these kind of things need to keep moving forward. There's no reason to delay. Thank you.
Renee Gallagher.
Madam Chair, thank you for taking my public comment. From listening to this discussion, I'm hopeful that improvements are on the way to make Albuquerque safer for pedestrians and other vulnerable road users. I've been riding my bicycle in Albuquerque for more than 40 years. In that time, I've crossed the Paseo del Nordeste bike trail at the crossings on Wyoming and Carlisle countless times. On July 22nd, 2025, just blocks from her home, 19-year-old Kayla Van Landingham was killed at the Carlisle crossing. In 2018, 12-year-old Justine Almuna lost her life while crossing Louisiana at a designated crosswalk. What happened in both of these tragedies and in so many others is very familiar. One driver stops to allow a pedestrian or cyclist to cross, then waving them on, while another driver in the adjacent lane does not stop. Too often when I cross at these designated crossings, one car will stop while other cars speed past, unaware of the reason for the stopped vehicle. These crossings are not only confusing, but also deadly over and over again. Any experienced cyclist knows that these marked crossings are actually more dangerous than unmarked ones. Cars often travel at 35 to 40 miles per hour on these roads, and flashing the yellow lights are not enough. Drivers do not know how to respond. In New Mexico, the culture of driving has long been to ignore crosswalks. When a car does stop for me, I often assume the driver must be from out of state because local drivers don't stop. I'm asking for you to implement the proposed changes to the traffic code to improve protections for vulnerable road users, including cyclists, pedestrians, and those in wheelchairs, to make Albuquerque's streets safer. We have the highest pedestrian death rate in the country for the past 8 years, according to the Governor's Highway Safety Association. Crosswalks should be clear, crossings should be clear, and drivers should understand what to expect and what to do so that more lives are not lost. Thank you for taking your time on this issue.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comment.
Very formally. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight and giving us your time and your input. Any questions? We're back on the bill as amended. Any questions or comments from counselors? Councilor Bassan.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to, again, for people that don't necessarily take the time to fully read through the full ordinance, can we have, whoever from admin wants to answer this, what will happen with ramping up enforcement? Because to me, we're only gonna be as good as making sure to enforce, because I hope people start to stop. I hope that people don't pass on the right or on the left when there's others that are in these crosswalks. But if we're not going to enforce it, how is it going to get spread? The word gets spread that we have changed this ordinance. I mean, an educational campaign is gonna be great if I don't watch the news anymore, just for the record. I barely watch it. I get our media alerts, but I don't watch the news anymore. So if I'm not gonna be, I'm not on social media. So if I wasn't doing this, how are you going to reach people like me that really are driving on the streets every day? And I don't think I'm a bad person for not watching the news or not being on social media, but how are we gonna make sure that people are gonna be educated that are like me in addition to everyone else? And how are we gonna make sure to do the enforcement necessary to eventually, hopefully, start setting the tone for making sure people listen?
Madam Chair and Councilor Busan, I believe that discussion has taken place amongst the different departments that are here this evening. I would ask either Valerie or Jennifer Turner or the representative from APD to see if a campaign has been at least thought of and what that would look like.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll let the other side talk about the campaign to educate the public. As far as the enforcement side, we're currently working on a comprehensive strategy to try to coincide, if the bill is passed, to coincide with the bill. That's already being currently discussed amongst our side of the House. I don't have that exact plan for you yet because obviously we're working on it right alongside with DMD and Vision Zero to make sure we have a comprehensive plan. But it is actually being worked on as we speak.
Thank you. And Councilor Basan, I would just say we can have that discussion a little later because there is a requirement in the accompanying resolution for a comprehensive education and outreach campaign. Just wanted to make sure that folks saw that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all for giving tickets to people that need them. I mean, APD has to ticket people for breaking laws. I mean, and we gotta work it out. We gotta make sure. We're struggling to do that as is, and I mean no disrespect to the department at all. I know that you all are working very hard in a lot of ways to do that, but I'm concerned about this. I think this is a good thing. This is not a either or thing. We gotta make sure that if we're gonna create another new law and more regulations, we actually do something about enforcing them so that people in Albuquerque know that the laws that we're creating are not just suggestions for us to have all this vigilantism that might go on that are causing children and families to lose their loved ones. So I definitely am looking forward to some of the conversation on the companion resolution to this for education, but God bless you for needing to enforce all the time, but we're gonna give you more to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilor Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to continue to give our condolences to Kayla's family and all of the folks. I just wanted to share, I went to College and Career High School to talk to kids there, and her legacy is strong there. That's where she graduated from, I understand, and those kids, all they wanted to talk about was this, and how do we fix this for them and for her. So I just wanted to share that with you, that the students there, even though she graduated, a year ago from that high school, all they wanted to talk about when I went to talk about policy was this, and how do we fix this for them and for her, and to never forget, and to make sure that I worked hard for them. So I just wanted to say thank you for continuing to come and I know how hard it is to stand up here and do that. So I just wanted to say thank you, and just wanted to share that from the students. Thank you.
Any other questions from counselors? All right, I'm going to close by saying, this is for Kayla. I have been telling people for 4 years that they are required to stop at mid-block crossings, saying it with all authority. And I was really shocked when Kayla was killed, and we found out that there was no law to cite for that incident. And I still can't believe that that was not something that could be cited. So while I agree 100% with Councilor Bassan, I would love to see people cited for this bad behavior. It happens every day. I stop at every blinking light, and people honk at me. They drive by really fast. They flip me the bird, and I don't understand that. There are human beings trying to cross the road, and what is wrong with you? But we can't cite if we don't have laws. And so I'm really glad that we're going to update this. The last time our traffic code was updated, I was 4 years old, and a majority of the counselors up here were not alive. And that is really bad. And so, you know, I know many, many people, and I want to thank all the advocates who have been working to fix this and help us get it right. And there were a lot of drafts and a lot of work from the mayor's office and Director Turner and Director Simon. But I think this is definitely needed. We have to do this. We have to get this update done. And so with that, I urge your support. And if all those in favor, raise your hand and say yes. Yes. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you, counselors. All right, we're going to move on to agenda item C. And this is R196, taking measures to improve safety for bicyclists, pedestrians, and other vulnerable road users. I'll move a do pass. Seconded by Councilor Grout. So this is a resolution that is made to accompany the ordinance that just passed. There were a couple of things that we wanted to make sure happened that were not appropriate for inclusion in an ordinance, and these are really leading by example. For example, we heard it from one of the speakers today, we do not include vulnerable road users in city training of drivers. And so we need to make sure that we do that. It should be included. We should lead by example. And the other major portion of this is a proposal for the administration to come up with a comprehensive education and outreach campaign that does reach as many people as we possibly can. And we say specifically things like billboards, social media, news media, all the things, because there's a different way to reach different people. And so that's the point of this R196. I don't believe there are any amendments. There is an amendment. Let's go to Councilor Bassan.
Madam Chair, I apologize. I'm going to say my appreciation extended to Miss Jackie Davis out there, because I have 2 young drivers in my house, and I am super terrified for multiple reasons, both for them and other people. They're doing really good though. But I have 2 more coming up in the future, and I tried to get a hold of them, but I can't, because one of them is literally at driver's ed. And so I wanted to add this in there for this educational material, so I'd like to move amendment number 1 to R96. On page 2, line 3, insert the following subsection and re-letter subsequent subsections. The administration shall provide educational campaign materials to all Traffic Safety Bureau and Motor Vehicle Division registered drivers' educational schools and learning centers in the city of Albuquerque. Is that okay?
It's moved and seconded.
Thank you. And so, I mean, I just don't want us to accidentally leave that out, because I'm truly trying to find out if my kids' driver's ed schools have taught them how to operate at a hawk signal. I can tell you I never learned that. And I know that clearly from our conversations, there's a lot of people that don't. So I want to make sure that part of our educational materials is making sure to reach out to those that are teaching others, because that's going to help us expand the net.
Any questions? Councilor Grout.
Thank you. I think that this resolution is even more important than the ordinance changes. Getting the word out about the changes is very important. So it's very, getting the word out starting as a young driver is super important. I would like to ask a few, and then one of the commenters also mentioned that out of state, they already know these laws, these changes. And so it's interesting that it is happening in other places. And so I'm really glad that we're doing it now. I think it's super important, and I'm thrilled for everybody. And I'm really sorry it took the life of several children, young people, for this change to happen. But I'm glad we're doing it now. And I have a few questions.
Counselor Grad, is this on the amendment?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I
Thank
want to
you.
make sure we get the amendment moved. Were there
Okay.
any other questions on the amendment? Counselor Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering if we could, I don't know if this is a friendly amendment, sorry, but could we also include APD's enforcement plan and to come back to not just the education plan, but also what is their enforcement plan?
I guess if we can do that as a separate amendment, just in case, I think, because I don't think they're the same. I think one is more of like the education as far as to young drivers. And then if there's a second one, I definitely am not saying I'm opposed to it, but I feel like it might be a separate
Amendment.
section in the actual resolution for something different like that.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would also say what is the training plan for APD then? For them to train their own officers on this new law and how they're going to. So I think I'll take your advice and do that. Maybe work with the team to come up with an amendment before it goes to council, big council. Because I think that's as important. How are we training officers about this change? And then what is the enforcement plan to come with this? If we really want the enforcement plan, they should have to come back to us with that too. So I'll work on that offline. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I just had a comment real quickly. I love this amendment. Thank you for bringing it. One of the things that the team discussed in the working group that we were all together in was we had some senators and some representatives, and there are folks working on a statewide approach to this as well. And so I think this dovetails nicely with the efforts that we're going to see coming out of the state legislature. So again, thanks for thinking of it, and we'll move to you for a close, Councilor Bassan.
Nope, just I want to keep all our young kids educated on how not to drive like lunatics. I urge your support.
And all those in favor of committee amendment number 1, raise your hand and say yes. Yes. Anybody opposed? That passes unanimously. And then we will go to public comment on the bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First speaker is Jackie Davis, followed by Ben Garland.
The shock and awe that I see on people's faces when I tell them that in Albuquerque you have to give 5 feet of passing distance to a cyclist. These changes are going to be just like that when I tell people, when I go around and let them know these changes were passed, you have to stop now. Communicating these changes is more important than the changes themselves, because we need to make sure that drivers, cyclists, pedestrians, everyone in between know what to expect at different intersections in different scenarios that they may encounter. I will say thank you for the amendment. I really appreciate that this is going to be shared with new drivers, so hopefully the next generation doesn't have to go Google what to do at a hawk signal like I did, and I'm sure many others of you did. I really appreciate the efforts being made, and I really look forward to seeing this pass too. Thank you.
Ben Garland, followed by Melinda Montoya.
Hello again. I just want to say 100% support this as well. I wanted to note there is the New Mexico Traffic Safety Center is located at UNM, and as part of my job, I'm coming up with content for drivers about how to interact with bicyclists and pedestrians. So I would love to incorporate some of this into that next year. And I will also say, this is forward thinking, but the best driver education is to make our streets so safe that every child in Albuquerque can walk or bike to school, because then they're going to grow up to be the next generation of safe drivers. Because when you know how scary it is to have cars driving crazy around you when you're walking or biking, you end up being a driver that is safe. So yeah, it's another thing to think about. Thank you.
Melinda Montoya, followed by Patrick Martin.
Hi, good evening, Chair and members of the committee again. I'm Melinda, Kayla's mom. I really appreciate this amendment more than anything, just because of this knowledge gap. like just the example simply, the driver who hit my daughter, she admitted on the news that she didn't see the flashing lights or the stopped cars ahead of her. And that statement alone really showed why education and even situational awareness are just as important as the physical measures that we take to create safety. So many drivers in Albuquerque don't understand what a flashing beacon means, or that people on bikes, wheelchair users, or anyone with mobility devices have the same rights to cross as somebody walking. And we can continue to build safer crossings, but if the drivers don't know how to respond or don't even realize they need to stop, these tragedies will continue. The comments alone on the news links about this ordinance really demonstrate how little drivers know about our traffic ordinances. I was amazed. They're like, well, that's a law already. And it's like, oh, not exactly. So this resolution really is about changing that. It's about teaching awareness, empathy, and responsibility. It's about making sure every driver knows what those lights mean, who is a vulnerable road user, and what it means to share the road with care. This resolution by default protects also the driver by removing that ambiguity. So I hope that there's a lot of support for this resolution, not just for the safety of those who walk or ride, but for the peace of mind that every parent, partner, friend, their loved ones make it home. So thank you.
Patrick Martin, followed by Diana Zamora.
Thank you. Yes, I want to echo the strong support for this. Traffic codes are not supposed to be a gotcha. They're supposed to help guide the way people operate on the roads. As Councilor Bassan, you mentioned earlier, it doesn't do much good if you know how to follow the rules if no one around you knows how to follow the rules. And so this emphasis on the education aspect and the amendment is very useful, and I urge your support. Thank you.
Diana Zamora, followed by Trevor Selby.
Good evening, Chief, Feeblecorn, and committee. Again, here I am. My name's Diana Zamora. I'm Melinda's mom and Kayla's grandmother. Kayla was killed on July 22nd. The crossing had flashing yellow lights and signage indicating pedestrian and cyclists might be present. So in addressing Section 2, public education related to traffic law changes, I do have some questions. My questions are, do we have a public education department that's responsible for training and education for the city? What is the process, for transparency and communication on what's being implemented? And I think I kind of heard a little bit about that. And then how will Vision Zero be incorporated into the public education campaign? Hopefully there's some examples of current public education campaigns that have documented scope, methodology, and reported outcomes. Are there successful campaigns in other cities that we can replicate and maybe, don't reinvent the wheel? How do we measure success? The yellow lights, or in the case of the flashing yellow lights on Carlisle and Delamar, where my granddaughter was killed, I've observed certain things. Some drivers yield while others do not. Most drive through the bikeway at a high rate of speed, ignoring the flashing yellow lights. When I'm driving south from Montgomery, I can see those lights flashing from way back there. Sometimes they're flashing and there's no pedestrians or bicycles there, so I don't know, is there a defect? I was taught a long time ago that if I saw yellow, that I was supposed to yield and stop if needed. I just knew that. I don't know what happened. I was also taught that motorists should always be alert as people may cross inappropriately and slow down so as not to hit that pedestrian, bicyclist, etc. It might not be a law, but that's the law that I follow. I recommend having various community members giving feedback on the education. I can also provide feedback on whatever they're creating because, again, I have some concerns about education. Thank you for committing yourselves to the safety of all human beings in the city. Thank you.
Trevor Selby.
Thank you, Council. This resolution is self-evident, and I think the only thing I would like to add is that as much as the information campaign is important, people do make mistakes, people do disregard the laws. So not only do we need enforcement of these rules, let the money flow in and go to the proper place as outlined in the ordinance above, but also we need to make sure the infrastructure itself is compelling drivers to behave responsibly. So let's continue driving forward, continue making adaptations, continue using the brilliant resources with the civil engineers who know how to make this city safer, and let's actually develop the infrastructure to prevent deaths altogether. And that doesn't come down to trusting the public with assuming risk for other people and vulnerable road users. Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comment.
Thank you. All right, we're back on the bill as amended. Any questions from counselors? I'm going to go to Counselor Champagne first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm not too sure if this has to do with the last, with 98 or with this one, because we're talking about a campaign of education. Never mind. But the last bill was directing speed camera money, which I believe with a news story showing that it was supposed to raise $45 million, and I think we have half of that, so $22.5 million to go toward Project Zero. And if I might not be informed right on Project Zero, and the reason why I ask it with this education, do we need to use some of that money for improvements as a city? This money coming in, we're talking about several people showing up and saying that they didn't see the light or the system isn't working. Is this Project Zero money, is this money that go toward Project Zero also to improve those crosswalks, repaint them? And I think I ask it because I said it couples with education. Education is improvement. The city's responsibility is to keep these crosswalks updated and improved.
Thank you, Counselor Champagne. So I think you mean Vision Zero. Yes, so we have Valerie Hermanson here, but basically the funds that come in from the speeding cameras go into, if the ordinance before this passes, all of it will go to Vision Zero projects, and those projects are things like making crosswalks more safe, changing the way roads are laid out, all of those things that are supposed to move us towards zero traffic deaths in our community. And so that is what those funds would be used for.
Okay, thank you.
Any other, Councilor Grau?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is really wonderful, and this campaign is even more important than the law itself. The law is very, very, very important, but this campaign has to get out there. We recently put a little crosswalk out on South Eubank near our park, big park out there. And people are struggling getting across the street and not understanding how to get across, and the drivers are not stopping. And so, and I know that Dan Mayfield, he's our Mr. Hawk over there, he put out a really cool video, but just today, just now, I got another email from a constituent that people aren't stopping. So getting the word out and educating people and teaching them what to do is more important than ever. I have just a couple of questions. What are the this is for our staff. What are the limitations on using revenue from the automatic speed enforcement program? What are the limitations?
Councilor Gott, who are you asking?
Our staff.
Okay, Mr. Cox?
Chair Feeblecorn, Councilor Grout, I am afraid I do not have that answer. I know that previous revenue from the traffic enforcement cameras went to a project on Louisiana, I believe, using those funds that was directed by Vision Zero Action. But unfortunately, I don't know the limitations of where that funding can or cannot be used.
Okay. Madam Chair, thank you, Mr. Cox. Does anybody from the administration know?
Madam Chair, Councilor Grout, we can have Valerie or Director Turner.
Madam Chair, Councilor Grout, great question, and I appreciate Councilor Champagne's questions about this as well. So our authority to spend the revenue from automated speed enforcement actually first derives from state law. And so we are capped at $100 per citation under state law. And then once we get all the revenues from the paid violations, We pay our expenses, we pay our vendor who administers the program, and then we actually have to send 50% of that back to the state, and it goes to the state general fund. So, and that our hands are tied by state law, unfortunately, but I know there's a lot of folks that are very interested in getting that state law changed, so stay tuned. But once we pay the state the 50%, then the remaining money, currently our automated speed enforcement ordinance says that it's distributed in accordance with state law. You go back to state law, and then that says it goes to traffic safety. And so with the last ordinance that was that this committee voted to support, it specifically will say Vision Zero, and so the city's Vision Zero program. And so as Councilor Feeblecorn alluded to, our Vision Zero program is getting down to 0 deaths and serious injuries from traffic incidents. And so all the programs that the Department of Municipal Development is working on right now, that includes things like the hawk signals, other crossing improvements, bike boulevards, bike lanes, buffered bike lanes, all of those things, those are all funded by our Vision Zero program. And again, we've recently put up a website that kind of shows where all those funds are going to, so I encourage folks to look at that.
Thank you for that great explanation, too. Thank you. I have just a couple more questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. Can we use this revenue to pay for this public information campaign?
Madam Chair and Councilor Grout, yes,
Okay.
we believe that we can.
Very good. And one more question. Will the department also give us a budget for buying advertising to promote these new rules?
Madam Chair, Councilor Grout, is part of the campaign that we submit to council. Yes, we can lay out the budget for that campaign. And then as part of that campaign, Councilor Bassan had been asking about, well, how do we reach folks that don't have social media and that don't watch TV news? We're actually talking about all of the above approach to public outreach, and that will include a lot of, I hope, neighborhood association meetings and public outreach. So through, all the different ways, including public meetings, neighborhood association meetings, TV, radio. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of the ways that we can meet folks, as well as the videos like you alluded to with our Holly Hawk character that shows folks how to safely cross crossings.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Director. I just have one final comment. I think everybody needs to get around this. Everybody walks, everybody bikes, everybody walks their dogs, everybody has children, everybody has grandchildren, and everybody has loved ones. And so everybody needs to wrap their hands around this and get on board. And so I fully support this, and I can't wait to make it happen fast.
Any other, Councilor Bassan?
Madam Chair, I just have some comments that I just want to make sure to get out there. I'm sure that it's already going to be touched on, but the educational campaign, definitely make sure to be clear about the no passing thing and the hawk lights. Like, there's a lot of information that we're about to spread out into the city. And so I highly recommend, I'm going to do this in a G-rated version, the KISS method of keep it super simple. And I think that with so much information that's going to get out there, we have to keep it simple. Whether it's for new drivers, whether it's for seasoned drivers, whether it's for people set in their ways, or just as much as we want to make sure to give them every detail, I also have, we can't make it too complicated because people are going to read the first 2 boring, long sentences and tune out. Make it colorful, visual, easy, to the point, bulleted. I don't know, ChatGPT might be able to help. I don't really know. Just make it appealing so that it will catch people's interest and be actually informative. I think it's mind-blowing. We talk about culture in Albuquerque and in New Mexico all the time. And a lot of the comments tonight actually mirrored some of the conversations I had today. Incredible how when I went to Chicago or when I went to New York, people stop When you even get like 4 feet away from a crossing, or even if you're just near no crossing and there's a pedestrian somewhere, people stop in cars. Here, we have a whole unique culture. We have a whole unique culture of driving, and I don't know when that started getting taught, trained, ingrained, whatever that may be. I'm happy that this is going to change some of that trajectory, even though I hope it doesn't take us generations to retrain some of the drivers in Albuquerque. And I also think that based off of one of the comments tonight too, I think that Trevor Selby had pointed out, which I appreciate as well, it isn't just about enforcement, because accidents do happen. I mean, I don't even want to get into some of the experiences that I've had recently that it happens. I don't think that we have to penalize people for a super accident, but we do need to make sure that there's enforcement for people that are careless and not paying attention to the point where it's harming others. And my last one, people still don't know how to use roundabouts. It's a real thing. I mean, we put in one now a couple years ago up in my district. It's also amazing that people still, like, a lot of people have come a long way, so I think that's really good. But we're not going to teach everybody, so we have to teach the majority, and we have to try to work together on this. Because if, after all these years, roundabouts can work elsewhere, they're starting to come along a little bit here. I personally love the one that we have in District 4 now. But even that is proving to be difficult, so I really, I see the uphill battle in this, but I also know that this is with good purpose.
Any other comments, questions? All right, I will just close by saying, I agree. I think Councilor Grout said it best. This is the most important part. We have to educate people. And it's frustrating as that is for me. I believe that when you see a human being trying to cross a road, you should stop. Period. But we do need to make sure that we get all of that education and outreach out there so that people can truly understand how to behave at Hawks, how to behave at regular crosswalks, how to behave at intersections. Anytime you see a human being on foot, in a wheelchair, on a scooter, on a bike, on an e-bike, or any other thing, we need to be looking for them and protecting them. And I think that this educational component is really the biggest part of what's missing. So with that, I urge your support. All those in favor of R196, raise your hand and say yes. Any opposed? All right, I'd like to move for immediate action on R196, and that's seconded by Councilor Grout. All those in favor of immediate action, raise your hand and say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? And then I would like to go back and move for immediate action on O98, seconded by Councilor Grout. All those in favor of immediate action on O98, raise your hand and say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, both of those things have passed unanimously and moving for immediate action on both, so we'll be hearing those at the next council meeting. There are no further items on the agenda, so we're going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.